Hi, I'm Craig Strickland with Banyan Studios, and we're starting a new series today on making or turning a bowl. And bowl turning has been around forever, and a lot of people would love to learn how to turn a bowl. Others would love to know how people do it. So I want to share with you the whole picture, but I want to start by just showing you a few bowls and pointing out a few things. This is what anybody thinks of as a bowl. It's walnut. It's walnut sections that have been glued together and then turned. And everybody's familiar with this kind of a bowl. This kind of a bowl is made from wood and resin. So you can see the resin across the bottom, and you can see the wood in the top. This is a solid block of ash wood with a Japanese finish on it, which is very unusual. We'll talk about that along the way. And then another live bowl. This was just a stump or a log that we picked up, and when it dried, we used some resin to put it together. This is another live bowl. And notice these, every one of them has a different shape. And actually in bowl turning, the bowl will help you decide the shape. This is one of my favorites. It has some red resin throughout it where the bowl was cracked. And yet it's a beautiful example of a natural bowl. One of a kind. You'll never find that bowl anywhere else. And this is another example of a resin bowl. You can see the blue resin on this one. Just a simple little bowl. This is a very complicated bowl. As you can see, it's got all kinds of detail to it, and each one of these little details is glued into the block from which the bowl was made. So none of this is painted. This is all carefully glued together pieces of walnut and oak and cherry. And then finally, what is becoming more and more popular these days is the use of resin with bowl making. And so these are pieces of burl and white resin that I've mixed together and then formed into a blank that I could then turn. So we're going to take a look at some of these bowls and how they get turned, and specifically we're going to turn one. We're going to do that next. I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll go to work. Thanks. Okay, we're going to start with a walnut bowl blank, and as you can see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boards of walnut that are all glued together, and you can see that there are some cuts in it as well, and most especially on the top, you can see that there's joints here and here and here and here and here. So it's going to give the bowl some design. First step is to get it on the lathe. Find a way to get it on the lathe. Now we could actually use screws and go right here through the middle, or we could put a sacrificial piece of wood on the back and glue it on and work off of that. This isn't necessarily the best way, it's just a way. So I've got a circle here that's going to help me figure out where the center of this bowl is, and I'm going to say it's right here. Now this will move, and I'm going to draw a couple circles, so when I get my piece of sacrificial wood, I'll be able to center it pretty perfectly. So now I kind of have an idea where the center is. If you start working on this and it's off center, it's going to wobble all over your lathe. It becomes more dangerous. It's harder to turn. you won't get a symmetrical turn. So it's pretty important that you get as close to the center of it as you can. So I'm going to look for a piece of sacrificial wood attached to it, and that's a piece I'm going to use. Now I'm going to come back with some thick CA glue, and I'm going to need a little activator. I'm going to spray a little of that on here. Actually, more than a little, it's quite a bit. And then I'm going to put my super glue right here, and I'm going to zero in and hold it for about 10 seconds and spray some activator around the sides of it. I think I'm also going to take a little thin CA glue in case there are a few more cracks and run it down the cracks like so. Now, I've had pretty good success using a sacrificial piece like this, but make no mistake about it, it can pop off this lathe. This isn't a real heavy piece of walnut, and had I taken this piece here and screwed it to the inside here, I would have had a safer placement. And we'll see as we go through the process whether this was a good idea or not. So now we're going to mount it to the lathe. You saw when we were building pins that we used a little small lathe, which is right there. But when we turn bowls, we need a bigger lathe. For one thing, the bowl has to, or the lathe has to have enough room underneath right here for the bowl to turn. Now I'm going to put it on the lathe and tighten it. Now it's still pretty precarious right now. I don't want to turn it just like that because there's just too much chance the thing could come flying off the lathe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my banjo over. That's what this piece is called, and my tool rest. And I'm going to take my tailpiece and using this tool, put it in and get it as close as I can. Now that I've got it about as close as I can safely get it, once I tighten this, even if this piece comes off, it doesn't have anywhere to go. I'm going to take a break for a second here so I can put a turning smock on and a helmet. You know, when you're turning pins, you can have a mistake and it doesn't really hurt anything. So eyeglasses are just fine. But if this comes off the lathe, if this big blank of wood comes off the lathe and it comes off fast, it could hit me in the face or the head or any number of places. So I use a shield and helmet when I turn these things. And I'm going to suit up now. If you like this video, I hope you'll hit the like button and ring the subscribe bell so that you get notified whenever we do another video. Thank you.